Fear is subjective. Something that might scare me shitless might not even make you blink. Some game developers go to great lengths to make us feel incredibly uncomfortable amounts of fear in their games. Sometimes it works wonderfully, and other times not so much. It tends to be very hit or miss, but they can also be both. Case in point, Outlast 2. You see, Outlast 2 runs its horror freak show on two very different types of horror. First off, you have what I like to call panic horror. You know when you're a little kid and an older family member starts running after you, pretending to be the boogeyman or something, and it's all fun and games until he starts getting closer to you going and then you go and start panicking and then shit yourself? That's exactly how panic horror feels like. You panic. In Outlast 2, this horror is ripped straight from the first game, and it's demonstrated in those scenes when there's someone running tirelessly after you until you either hide or reach the next checkpoint where they can't follow you anymore. The other type of horror in Outlast 2 is the psychological horror, the type of horror that messes with your head. In Outlast 2, this is represented mostly by the school scenes. So let's take a closer look at them, shall we? Warning! Spoilers incoming! I am going to mention a lot of events from the game, so if you haven't played or seen the game and you don't want to be spoiled, well, this is the warning. There he is. It's beautiful. The game starts in this interactive cutscene in a chopper with you, your wife, and the pilot. After a
shine light from the heavens
brightens up your day, the chopper goes haywire and crashes. You wake up on the ground with your trusty camera by your side. I know this isn't exactly the first playable scene, but I'll get to it in a minute. After a small tutorial section, you spot an abandoned house with the cutest little windmill. This, in my opinion, is the greatest part of the introduction. I love these type of desolate places. There's no one there in this hauntingly beautiful place, and the atmosphere is so absorbing. Too bad you can't see most of it, because everything is so freaking dark. After that, you arrive at a village. A very creepy village in the middle of nowhere. I mean, what can go wrong? You go through the village seeing dead animals, religious imagery, and baby corpses. The game goes from hauntingly beautiful to just disgusting and gross. And you also have this feeling that you're being watched all the time. Yeah, I'm sure they're friendly. After 20 minutes into the game, you find the first person. You start hearing this woman mumbling to herself. This place is so foggy and dark, you can barely see. Even with your night vision camera, it's hard to see. Of course, fear starts to ensue and your defense mechanisms get triggered. Which, while playing a video game, is the equivalent of clenching the controller and putting your face really close to the TV. And that's when you realize that you didn't see her, but she definitely did see you. The music gets loud and she runs out of the fog straight towards you. When I was playing this for the first time, I froze completely. I had no idea of what was coming towards me. Or maybe I just wanted to get a closer look at that pretty face. She gets close to me, whacks me, and kills me almost instantly. This scene to me was really scary. I was already anxious with the way the scene was prepped, with its incredibly low light and mumbling noises that when she attacked me, I couldn't even do anything. Of course, after I died, I had to do it again. This time I tried being smarter by hiding behind walls. And then something weird happened. To my surprise, this woman had X-ray vision and could see behind walls. What kind of wall hacks are these? Anyways, you lose her by going to a place she can't go, and after wandering for a bit, you meet the people from the village. Oh, they're not friendly! They're not friendly! Now the game becomes a hide-and-seek / chase game. Pretty much all you have to do in this game is hide and run towards the next checkpoint. And it's hard, because these guys have incredible eyesight and are really smart. I mean, some of them are really stupid. Clean. One of the first really intense chases is actually really good. You get the sense that everyone in that village is after you. You run into a house, they'll run after you. He's in the house! You lock the door, they'll take that door down. You crawl under a house, they'll crawl right behind you. And while you're under the house, this happens. This first intense chase was actually my favorite part of the village. But here are the issues. It's always way too dark in this game, and they drop in huge areas where you get lost constantly and you have to magically figure out where the hell do you need to go. They use the classic follow the light source method, but even in some scenes the light can be misleading. And the biggest problem of them all is that this is a huge part of the game. You'll be running, getting lost, and avoiding enemies pretty much the whole game. And if you like games like that, you're gonna love this. But to me, after the first couple chases, It just got old. It was like playing the Five Nights at Freddy's games, where the first few tries are really intense and scary, but after that it's just boring and frustrating. But don't worry, you won't be lost in running for your life all the time. You also have the occasional drag thing to the right place, or press the button to open thing. Yes, I know, very creative. But you'll also be hunting down an unhealthy amount of papers and documents that you need to read if you want to get a sense of what the hell is happening in this confusing story. And even after reading all the papers, you won't understand the story to its fullest, because, I mean, they need a reason for you to buy the DLC, right? But there's this one thing that this game does differently from the first one, and in my opinion, it's outstanding! Remember when I told you a few minutes ago where the scene he wakes up near the crash isn't the first playable part of the game? Well, you see, in this game, our main character from pretty much the start of the game starts getting quote-unquote transported to this school. First scene of the school shows you exactly the type of experiences you're gonna get. You start in this hallway with lockers to your left, and you go forward and one of the lockers opens by itself. Nothing weird here. As you reach the end of the hallway, you turn right and see a very suspicious man walking away from you. As you walk through this hallway, the choir goes insane. When you're about to cross the double doors, they close in a loud bang, and then you hear someone humming. You turn around, and of course, there's a creepy little girl right behind you. And then starts filling the school hallways. And when the blood hits you, that's when you wake up. In my opinion, this scene was brilliant. This was the way of the developers to show us that this game is not only going to make us feel fear by having crazy dudes running after us, but also by using our own minds against us. And I love that shit! I don't know why, and I might be wrong, but as a creator, I think constraining yourself to real-life situations only makes creativity incredibly limited, especially in a horror situation. When you add psychological events to the mix, you can make everything. Creativity can flow freely. I mean, there are some constraints, of course, because you want things to have some sort of meaning, but still, it's so freeing. And Red Barrels went freaking bonkers on the psychological events. First of all, you have the way they do the transitions from the real world to the school. Like, there's this scene where you are completely alone in a huge area of the village. The only thing keeping you company are the corpses and the voice from a little girl coming from the well. You get close to the well and grabs you and pulls you down. Yeah, I totally saw that coming. I mean, I expected something to come out of the well and jump scare me, but I did not expect a giant tongue from the depths. Or this one scene where you lose your camera for a brief moment. When you find the camera, it automatically goes into the camera view, and that's when you realize that you're not where you were anymore. It's so crazy! During the game, you keep going back and forth between this real life and this school place. But the real magic happens when you're at the school. The game really messes with your head, like shadows appearing at the edge of the screen, making you freak out. At one point, I didn't know if the game was messing with me or if I was losing my mind. It's just that this place is so lonely and the atmosphere there is so gloomy and dark. Quite literally. I just wanted to be there for the whole game. They make me explore different parts of the school, and they were actually very creative throughout pretty much every single one of these scenes. One of my favorite parts in the school was when you're going through a hallway and blood starts coming out of the fire sprinklers. And you know, there's also tongue phone. Then it comes to a point in the game where the psychological events start happening in the real world. This is when my most favorite scene of the whole game happens. The lake. There's this part in the game where you need to cross a lake, but of course you're not gonna swim in those waters. You have a death wish? No, seriously, you'll die if you go into that water. So what do? You climb on the smallest, most unstable looking raft in the whole freaking world and go into the water. After rowing for a few seconds, fog starts settling in. I'm already waiting for the worst. Mr. Tongue comes to say hello. And then that fish starts emerging to the surface. Yes. Normal. Completely normal. And what happens next? Well, God sends a making you fall off the raft and into the water. He sends a wave. A wave. In a fucking lake! And of course there are corpses in the water, and Tongue Monster grabs your leg. Needless to say, I lost my shit.
Oh my god, come on!
See what I mean when I say unpredictable? I thought something was going to grab me and pull me into the water. I didn't expect dead fish and giant wave from the heavens. Also, I know that wasn't God, but I'm not gonna get into the story here, okay? These bits are unpredictable, exciting, and different from anything else in the game. It's just too bad that after experiencing these mind-bending events, you have to go back to the boring-ass real world to run away from more dudes. And some of them are naked! Oh, you have a penis! No! It's not like it's all bad. There are these two weird dudes who think you are.
Jesus!
They are just hilarious.
A modern Christ would use a camera, not a book. This is our gospel.
And as far as I know, they are the only ones who use the long-range weapon in this game, which mixed things up a little bit. But in my opinion, there's nothing in these parts that grab me like the psychological events do. And again, it's not for lack of atmosphere. This game looks gorgeous, no matter where you are. It's just too bad you can't see it most of the times, cause everything is so fucking dark! And I don't mind the darkness, okay? They actually use it very effectively, especially in the school scenes. Not being able to see what's up ahead makes things scarier, because when your eyes can see clearly, the mind will fill in the blanks. And what your mind can cook up is, most of the times, way scarier than what it's actually there. But with all of this darkness everywhere, we, the players, can see the amazing world they carefully crafted for us. And we end up seeing this world with a weird shade of green. And even though they use the darkness effectively, they also end up shooting themselves in the foot. Like the time when you encounter the first enemy, for instance. Until you actually see her, in your mind, it can be anything. A scary thing. The scariest thing. But after you see her, you're just like, meh, big woman with big stick. So the next time you encounter her, the blanks are already filled. You already know what's lurking in the dark, thus making it less scary. So the darkness just stops being effective, and it limits your view from this beautiful decaying world. The psychological events, on the other hand, are always changing and doing different things. So even with all this darkness, it's always surprising and you never know what's coming. But of course, even some of the psychological events are bad, like that super cheap jump scare. I like those parts where you have the tongue dude chasing after you and you need to run and hit the next checkpoint, and it just becomes like those chases of the real world and it gets boring really fast. Also, sometimes the camera does this. But then the game hits you with one of the most subtle, most brilliant displays of horror. You get into a hallway, turn left, and go towards the double doors. You can see your own shadow on the floor as you approach the door, and all of a sudden, a second shadow appears. Your immediate reaction is to get to the door, open it, and run. But when you get there, the door is locked. Oh no. In your head, it's game over. You're dead. But nothing happens. You turn around and guess what? There's no one there. Wait, what? This scene was so subtle and so goddamn terrifying. Every time this guy shows up, you hear this loud banging noise. In this scene, nothing. You hear nothing. You only know he's behind you because of the shadow. The lighting was extremely well used, and seeing that the only reaction from players would be to run, since it's pretty much all you do when an enemy is after you, the choice of having the doors locked was brilliant. At this point, you can see just how much this game screws with your head. This was so well executed that they were able to make a scene where you have both the panic and the psychological horror in one terrifying moment. The panic horror was the creature after you when running for your life, and the psychological horror was the fact that there was no one there after all. But you see what I mean? It's either a hit or a miss. It's either brilliant displays of horror or repetitive, boring-ass chases. The running from dudes is fun at first, but it quickly starts getting dull and repetitive.
He's in the house!
The psychological events are when this game truly shines. I just wish it had more of the psychological moments. Honestly, I wish Red Barrels would do a game solely focused on psychological horror, because they already proved that they can really mess with your head. The psychological events were without a doubt the best thing about Outlast 2. Continuously messing with your mind and making you question your own sanity. Because you can always feel fear when someone is running after you, yelling and trying to hurt you. But when your own mind is against you, that's when you should be really afraid.
Jesus!
Well, I mean, that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, this is just my opinion, so please, if you have a different opinion, let me know. Did you not like the psychological parts and prefer the chase scenes? That is totally okay. We're all different and we all have different tastes. This is why I created this show, so that I can express my opinion and you guys can express yours without judgment. I'd like to thank my beautiful Patreon supporters for helping me out. Thank you guys so much. You are indeed beautiful. I would also like to thank everyone for the amazing feedback on the first episode of Just My Opinion. Please feel free to leave your opinions about Outlast 2 below. I would love to read them. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care.